Good morning, Monica. Today, August 24, 2023, we're resuming our podcast session. It's been a while, and today's topic will be when is it a right time for somebody to move into a residential care community? And by the way, just for the record, I will be referring to residential care community also as an RCFE, which stands for Residential Care Facility for the Elderly. So I'll be probably going back and forth between RCFE and Residential Care Community. So I'm referring to the same thing, just for the record. So anyway, welcome again. Good morning. We are here in one of the rooms in Sacramento, RAYA'S Sacramento. And Monica here is with us, as I'm sure most of you know her. And we will be discussing, as I mentioned, when is the right time to place somebody or to move into residential care community. So Monica, why don't we jump right into it?
Sure.
And why don't you tell us, start with, we'll take that as the first question.
Well, it's nice to be back. It's nice to be back doing some of these podcasts, more of an educational for our listeners and viewers. When is the right time? That's actually a very good question. Many people ask that. The families ask that, and the actual, potential move-in client or seniors asking that question. So it really just depends on the situation at home. Is it time for you to start needing someone to help you cook and clean? Are you having a hard time showering? Those are all some of the red flags as to when you may need to start looking at a community. Even the social aspect. Is there anybody at home that you're socializing? Are you getting out? Are you going to the senior center and being active in the community? Or has all that dwindled away?
So let's just say somebody decided, okay, it's time to make the transition. What would be a recommendation from somebody who has experience like you to make the transition as easy and successful for the senior?
Sure. So, what we're finding today is a lot of the seniors are kind of holding back on, the move or placement because of the old mantra of, I don't want to be stuck in a nursing home. I don't want to end up in a community like that. Don't put me in a place like that. Not understanding the aspect of the benefits that it could help them. So assisted living communities are nothing like skilled nursing facilities. You have a lot more to offer. So my biggest first recommendation is find a resource or somebody that is going to be able to help you start doing some of the footprint, some of the legwork. It's a lot of stuff to look into, and you want to make sure you find the right spot. Not all the communities are the same.
Yeah, a lot of people or seniors have this image of an assisted living, and I think back in the days, 20, 30 years ago, assisted living facilities did not have the same buildings. I mean, I walked in some buildings, it's like a 5-star resort hotel. And I think seniors think, oh, if I go in there, I'm going to die, rather than I'm going there to thrive, because you're more, like you mentioned, there's more socialization, there's outings, there's fine dining, restaurant style dining, and there's a lot of other things that I think you can do much more. Plus, it keeps you busy, so you don't have time to think about things that you shouldn't be thinking of. So I think that's one thing that most people don't even know what's out there, but they remember 30 years ago they went to visit somebody in a nursing home, and they think it falls under the same umbrella, which I don't think that's the case. And it's not, I don't think, I know it's not the case.
Right. Well, as we know, senior housing is in demand, and it's only going to get bigger and bigger. And so a lot of the seniors have, like I said, different options and different things to choose from. But again, to begin, where do I start and where do I go from here? It's finding the proper resources and start doing some of the homework yourself if you want to do it. Of course, if there's family around, much easier for family to help you. But yes, living in communities, residential care facilities is not the same as it was, not even 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Today, and even after COVID, let's touch a little bit on that. During COVID, a lot of people saw they were isolated in their rooms. There wasn't a lot of socialization that was allowed to be done. Many people passed away. So there is that fear of, is that what it's going to be like?
Yeah.
And it's not. So a lot of communities do focus on the social aspect, the nutrition aspect, the physical component of what somebody needs in order to continue living.
You mentioned about some statistics, and I actually have I attended the Argentum conference in 2021, and I have actually a few notes here from that conference. It was so interesting that I actually tried it down. But I think it's very interesting, and I think it's interesting not only for people in the industry, but I think even people who are not in the industry, because everybody has a loved one or an aging parent, or grandparent, or a friend that eventually will need some sort of assistance.
Right.
So as of 2021, and this is a national conference, by 2030, which is 6 to 7 years from now, there are not enough assisted living beds in the United States to absorb all the people that will need the services. I found that very fascinating, incredible that's how many people. So the next thing is they said every day, this is again back in 2021, 10,000 people turn 65. Every day, 10,000 individuals become 65. So I think that's when the baby boom umbrella is coming in, right? And then there's some more statistic about the average age in an assisted living is 86.7 years old. 1 in 3 of them have Alzheimer's, and that's when memory care comes in. I don't know. I just found this very fascinating. That this is that's why there's this industry is only. It's still, I believe, it's still in its infancy, and I think it's going to get. There'll be more and more need, and obviously there'll be more and more competition. But competition is always good because as you have more competition, you get a better product.
Right.
So I thought it would be interesting for everybody kind of to know.
I do want to touch a little bit on the component that you talked about of the average age, right? Because we get this. I'm getting this a lot, or I see this a lot, where some of the seniors think they have to be in their mid 80s or up in their 90s in order to be placed, and that's not true. You could be in your early 70s. I mean, we've taken residents in as early as in their mid 60s. Yeah. It really just depends, again, on the components of what do you have at home? What are you dealing with at home? Are you isolated at home? There's a lot more inside of a community that there wasn't 10 years ago today. Again, you have the physicians that are around, you have the clinical aspect, and maybe you don't need that. But most importantly, you do need the social aspect, and you need nutrition. So if you are even in your early 70s, mid 70s, and you are finding that some of this is difficult for you to combat, then going into a community is not a bad thing.
No, yeah, I don't think age has. I mean, age does have to do because of the licensing. It's 62 and over. But even if somebody needs services for whatever reason that are under that age, under that number, we can always receive request and accept exemption from licensing. They always grant it. There's no problem. But yeah, that's just an average, 86.7 years old. But we also see people that they live much longer. My God, today if you come and you say 90, you're a young resident. We have people well over 100 that live with us, still independent, still drive, still go on walks and mind they do that business on the side. Pretty impressive, and that number is only going to grow. Right. So with that, so what are the what obstacles do you see that seniors have as they move in or before they move in?
So the biggest obstacle is I still own my home. And what do I do with all of my belongings? Some, people come and they'll say, wait, I live in a 4-bedroom home. What am I going to do with all my furniture? What do I do with my home? I don't want to bother my children. Where do I start? Those are the biggest obstacles. And so again, having the resources, there's specialty realtors out there that deal with helping somebody from A to Z. There's moving companies. There's case managers that will go out there and help you put a plan together, finding the right spot, taking you out on tours, answering all the questions for you, sitting down and jotting down all of those questions is the most simple thing to do. However, it becomes an obstacle.
So once a senior moves into a community or a residential care community, can they continue receiving support from their physician, do they have to switch? So let's say they have a doctor, right, and the community they move in most likely have a mobile physician, right? Mobile services, I should say. Do they have to switch? Do you recommend switching to the communities? Professionals, or keep their own, or what would you recommend if somebody would ask you this question?
You know, that's a good question, and thank you for asking that. And as a social worker, I would highly recommend that you minimize the change. There's already enough change going through by making the decision about a big move, right? So I'm asking, or not, I'm not asking, but somebody's deciding that it's time to make the move. So how can you minimize all of those stress factors? And it's, let's keep your doctor so that you don't have to go through that stress. Your doctor knows you, everybody gets comfortable with their own physician. And so it's really a recommendation of, I recommend that everybody minimize all of those changes all at once. Make the move. Make all those changes first. And then when you move into a community, then you can decide whether or not you want to use the mobile physician that's at the community. You want to use some of the services that community has to offer. But I don't recommend making a ton of changes all at once unless it's really something that's needed. Your doctors are in Los Angeles and you're moving to some location in Orange
unless
County.
they cannot service you.
Correct.
Yeah.
So those are the only reasons I recommend. But the less that you do, you're already making, or somebody's already making a big move, the less is better.
So can you tell us a little bit about what a day looks like in a residential care community?
Yeah, so
like morning, you wake up, and
Yeah, so every community should be set up and be equipped to be able to. You get up in the morning, and let's say you don't need any help at all. Somebody could still move in and drive their car and be independent, but you should be able to get up like you would at your own home and look forward to going into your dining room and enjoying your meal and getting together with other residents that are in the community. And what is going on for the day is what's the outing that's going to happen. Is there something that I can benefit from? And then going through the day-to-day, whatever programs are available at the community. If you're still driving, maybe you're going to take a trip to go visit your children. Just because you moved into a community does not mean that your social life or your life outside has changed. Everything should remain the same. Now, somebody who can't do any of that, then it should be that you have a caregiver accessible to you to be able to come in and help you get ready for the day. And that's just the beginning. All of the amenities inside of a community are super important for somebody to look at.
So so I think it's more like I mentioned in the beginning. It's a lot of people think I'm going there and it's going to die, but I believe that many people, and especially we've seen this with our residents, they came here and they thrived. I actually had some residents that did so well they actually went back home.
Right.
So I think the conception is different. I think people have it. So I do recommend it for people who are not sure to come and visit and check it out. See, instead of just going based on your memory, what you remember 20, 30, 40 years ago, because it's not the same. Like you said, not even the same like 10 years ago.
Yeah. So, we can touch on some of the things. Why is it better, right, to live in a residential care facility than versus home? So the first one is, your personal care assistance, right? So you don't have that at home. And even if you do have that at home, you have one caregiver. And so your daily, day-to-day activities that you were able to do are now a little more limited and you can't do them. So you're at risk, for a fall, you're at risk for dehydrating, you're at risk for not feeding yourself, malnutrition. Medication management is another one. You're forgetting to take your medication, and even maybe you're not forgetting. Maybe it's too hard for you to get over to the pharmacy, even though we have mail order, right? So even that takes work. All of the administrative stuff takes work. This is all stuff that a community can take over for you. Healthcare services. How many times do you at home need the help of a physician, but you have to call and make an appointment? In our day-to-day lives, Moti, think about, you're going to call the doctor, you need to get in. and the doctor's booked for the next week or two,
Yeah.
right?
Next week or two is good.
So,
Good case scenario.
so in a residential care facility, because you have nursing staff, you have at your fingertips, I'm not feeling well. So the nurse puts the call out to the doctor, and boom, there's a plan put in place. So it's that quick, right?
Somebody follows up and makes sure it's done.
Yeah. Safety and security. You have somebody there when you're living in a residential care community to look over you. You're not isolated in your home. How many times have you and I, gone to resident homes and they're on the floor? They fell coming out of the shower. They've been lying there for a day or more than 24 hours.
Yeah, some of them unfortunately died.
Right. And so that's a huge one, right? The safety and security. The social interaction, the stimulation of being around other residents is huge. Going out on outings, something that the residents can't do or you can't get at home. Nutritious meals. You're on a specific diet. You don't know how to cook at home. Maybe you do know, but you can't. But how many? Again, that's a simple conversation, right? Where you go to the doctor and the doctor says you have to eat healthy. What does that mean? What does that mean to you and I, right? So you ask the doctor, so what does that mean? Can you give me a healthy diet? You can go online and print out a healthy diet, but does that mean that you're going to be able to fully make yourself that healthy meal at home? Inside of a community, that's all set up for you, right? So housekeeping and maintenance.
I think
that's big too.
Number one,
right?
So we had the hurricane or tropical storm this past weekend, and I got a call from my mom. Oh my God, my kitchen leaks and the window doesn't close, and why worry about it if you don't have to? Think about it.
Right.
Right here, if something leaks, something doesn't work, hey, just press a button and it's handled.
Right.
You don't have to worry about going. First of all, finding. Then what about paying bills, utilities, this, that? I mean, all of that. It's just like it's something that is important to educate the seniors, because I really believe if you take full advantage of this, you can really thrive just by the fact that you can get rid of a lot of responsibilities that you've done all your life, and then you got used to it, and you think, oh, it needs to continue. But no, it's not. Right. So I think I have actually I don't know if what you have on your list, but I made actually a full list as to what are the pros, and like you said, maintenance is one of them. You don't have to worry about paying bills, right? Gardener, roof leaks, buying food, caregivers if they don't show up for whatever reason, right? Help with meds, ADLs, all that stuff. Then medical professionals. In our community, we have doctors, physical therapists, home health. Anything that you need, it's literally we have a concierge in the front that whatever you need to be taken somewhere. We handle everything. We had one of our residents she flew to New York to the airport. We dropped her off. Then when she came back, we picked her up. So I really think this is a luxury that you can benefit from. And the most important thing, if you really break it down for dollars and cents, it's much cheaper living in a community setting, a residential care community, than living at home. Plus everything which you benefit from. So I believe that, we have here, it's a restaurant style dining. You come in, the menu is it's like you go to a 5-star restaurant. You have the roof deck, we have the dining room. So I think it's something that I really encourage everybody when they get to a point where say, well, my kids are older, they don't live at home anymore. I would explore that position, that option to go and don't. I'm not saying move in. Go and check it out.
Yeah.
Go and have lunch there. Go and join them for their activity, what do they have, or whatever, go and speak to the engagement coordinator and say, hey, what's your schedule like? I would like to go and see how are you doing your movie nights, or how are you doing your outing, or I think that there's a lot to benefit from, and at a lower cost,
right.
So, and to add to that, we have even beauticians, like beauty salon, so you make an appointment, whether you want to have your nails done, or hair done, or whatever you need, everything could be coordinated to be done in a facility, in a community. Or if you want, we can still take you to your own person that you've been using for years. So anyway, I think that's that's kind of where you and I stand, and I think many. I think it's a matter of time that people will recognize that and they'll utilize that.
Yeah, and I think just to recap, the podcast and just for our listeners, it's really just whenever you recognize whether it's you yourself or you're a family member. I think when you start to see your loved one or you yourself really hone in on what is it that you're lacking at home. Again, look at your socialization with others. Are you still getting out? And maybe you are, but it's not the same at home when you do get home. Can you cook for yourself? Can you really take care of yourself day to day? Can you still do your laundry and clean your home? Having a big home is a big expense. It's bigger than what you think, even if the mortgage is paid off. There's other things that you're
property
having
taxes,
to correct.
utilities.
So looking at all of those things versus going into a community setting, and again, communities are not like they were 10 years ago.
Not even 5 years ago.
Not even 5 years ago. So there's a lot of new communities that are around, and we're all here to be able to take care of our aging population. And senior housing is in demand. And so highly encourage you to start doing some of the homework and looking at how can I make this transition easy and not so difficult, and what are the steps that I need to take.
So we spoke about the pros of why is it good to consider moving from your home to a residential care community. So we spoke about all the points and details, but over the years I've been told that, from residents, potential residents, everything you said makes sense, but I have sentimental value to the home. I have memories from my kids growing up here and friends coming over and this and that. So how would you explain, or what would be your answer if somebody would come up? Most of them will come up with this answer, but if they say, even you, okay, if 20 years from now you say, okay, I think it's time to move, but you do have memories in your home because of it's a lot of years.
Yeah.
A lot of people. Most people lived in their house for at least 20, 30 years. And in 20, 30 years, there's a lot of memories that accrue, Yeah. So anyway, what would be your answer to that? How would you answer that question?
That's a good question. And again, thank you for asking that. And that is a very soft subject. And so it's one of those things where you just have to listen, and kind of help them go through that process. If I were to even think about, myself, I owned a home for 16 years and I raised my kids in that home. And when it came time to say, okay, I have to sell this home and move on, I had to look, and there was a lot of memories, lots of events there, and the kids grew up there. And so how do you let go of something like that? And it's really just thinking about it's a different chapter in your life, but never dismissing somebody's feelings. So gathering what you have. If there's extended family, maybe passing some of the items that you have in your own home and off to the children so that they stay with you. Your memories are your memories and they're never going to go away. But you have to stop and think about it's a different chapter in your life. And that's really, honestly, the most simple way to explain it without getting too... It's an emotional attachment that we have with our homes and our pieces, right?
Some people, yeah, true, but but at the same token, I know some people that it's for some people it's easier to let go of those emotions or to make the switch, and some people it's a little harder. But I think it's all a matter of time. It's like kids; you put them in preschool and they don't want to go in there, and then 2 months later they don't want to leave preschool. They love it because they have friends.
Yeah.
And there's
sometimes I will recommend that you try moving into a location and try it out for a bit. It really psychologically takes about 2 to 3 weeks for you to change a pattern, and that's proven. So you can, for instance, I could say to you, you could say, I have a habit of drinking a soda pop every single day, and I don't know how to break the habit. And so I would say to you, it takes 2 weeks, 3 weeks at the max to break that habit. Once you stop drinking it, and you will see in 3 weeks you won't crave it anymore. So it's almost the same, could be the same analogy. Move into a location under a respite state. Try out the place. You don't have anything to lose unless the community is asking you, one, unless they don't offer it, or two, they ask for a big buy-in. find a location that you think that you might like that somewhat meets all of your guidelines or checks off all your boxes. Try it out for a couple of weeks. I can almost guarantee you're going to get that feel of, okay, maybe this is something I'd like to continue doing.
Yeah.
And then you go back home, and then sometimes those transitions are easier than for you just to walk out your front door, close the door, and know that you're never coming back. Keep your home, keep everything there, transition to a place as a temporary. Sometimes that's an easy segue into a change, but it is a very hard, touchy thing to talk about when you talk about sentimental values.
Well, I think we covered quite a bit about on this topic of when is a good time to transition from home to residential care community. Anything else you would like to add before we conclude this?
I don't think we have anything other than, again, just listen to yourself and what are your needs that you have, and is it time, even if you are missing the social component, what can you do to make that different? Again, you want to prolong your life. You don't want to
And quality too. Make sure that you prolong it with quality.
Correct.
So that's the key thing. It's not a lot of time I say to people, it's not how long you live. It is important how long, but it's also even more important how well you live.
That is correct.
Well, that's great. And for our listeners, if you have any questions, just let us know. Reach out. We're here to help. We're here to listen to you, and we're here to give you the right guidance. Thank you very much, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.